This video is going to be educational. I'm going to explain how my love for trucks got started and how I got into the trucking business, and how, and if you need it, I might be able to help you. If you don't, maybe I can't. But I would really, really, really like it if you would click the like button, hopefully subscribe, maybe even hit that little bell thing, because that lets YouTube know to share my videos. I mean, we got 200 people that watch them. I got videos that's been viewed 5,000-6,000 times. Just can't get none of them likes, none of them subscribers, or we say in Southwest Louisiana, prescribers. But maybe if I start telling some of these stories, I got two on my mind. One, I'm going to explain how I got in the trucking business. And number two, myths in the trucking business. Myths going to be a doozy. And then I'm going to set these on a playlist, I guess. So kick back, relax, enjoy. It's going to be quick, short, sweet. Remember to click like and subscribe. Thank you. The year was 1966. My dad sold trucks for Ed Talzig Ford in Lake Charles, Louisiana. My uncle Buddy, had a rice farm in Vinton, Louisiana. Uncle Buddy bought a brand new Ford truck. I think F750, 650, I don't know exactly. The nameplate's been gone forever. But the truck was a gas burner, had a 5 and a 4 with a dog on the rear end, which means it had a 2-speed rear end, a 5 main box, and a 4-speed brown light behind it. It was a box rice truck. My dad checked me out of school. It was on a Thursday in the spring. Funny how I can remember all that shit. I was in the 1st grade. My dad came and picked me up at Dalby School in that cabin chassis, and we rode to Vinton, Louisiana, which is 30 miles down the interstate. The Interstate 10 was brand new. I could sit on the floorboard of that truck, and them Fords on the door had a little step like that. And I could sit on the floor of that truck and stand up and look out the window in that little hole. I remember that. The truck was sky blue. And fast forward, I was 6 years old. Fast forward I was working on the rice farm for $1 an hour. Well, actually $8 a day plus room and board. It didn't matter if we worked 20 hours or we worked 4 hours. I got $8 a day. But my job when we was harvesting rice, which we call cutting rice, was to level the load with a shovel and then pull the truck up. And then the carts would come by and start loading the second truck. They had 3 trucks the first year I started. Later on had 4. But the old Ford was the last truck. Only had one truck driver. And he didn't like driving that Ford. He liked driving them Internationals with them butterfly hoods. But anyway, so I'd load the truck, pull the tarps, jump off the back, get in the truck, fire it up, and drive it up a little bit. And then I'd start doing the next one. Well, it got to where we was further and further in the field, so I had to drive the trucks further ahead for the driver. I'd have 2 trucks in the loading area. Then I'd drive one to the front, and by then the driver would be coming back to the field, and I would drive that one back, spin it around, untarp it, and load it. No, I was doing all the work. But anyway, the further and further we got, the drivers started getting me to drive it further and closer. And it's a good 12 miles to the rice dryer. It was getting to where I was driving them trucks down the gravel road. Now, them gas burner trucks have no synchronizers in the transmission. If you miss a gear, you might as well push in the clutch, get all the sticks in neutral, let everything calm down, catch your breath, take off again. That's how I learned how to drive a truck. Self-taught. I've always either driven trucks, so that light was on, either driven a truck, worked in the oil field, welded, iron worker. I've always been mechanical, working on shit. Even if I didn't know what I was doing, I was going to take it apart and figure it out and put it back together. But, and growing up, you know, that farm was owned by my uncle. Later, after my uncle passed away, my cousin took over and I worked for him. Working on that rice farm during the summers taught me more about how to work on shit than anything you can imagine. Now, I'm talking about in the 60s and 70s. The biggest combine they had when I first went to work over there was a John Deere 95R, which has about a 16-foot header. Nowadays, they cutting with 30 and 40-foot headers on combines. When they got a international 715 hydrostatic combine, that means it was an automatic. I was in high school. That was the first automatic transmission piece of equipment I ever seen in my life. And guess what? It broke. But after the rice fields and working construction, then I went to work for Halliburton. We drove trucks that had shiny 290 Cummins. Some of them didn't even have turbos. 13-speed transmissions and 555 rears. It'd go 45 miles an hour up a bridge and 45 miles an hour down the bridge. They weren't speed demons. Got my first taste of Caterpillar powered equipment back in the early 80s, later 80s, I guess, when I went to work for Sullivan Trucking. Everything had 3406s, which was a 4 1/4 cat with 13 speeds with some long legs behind them. We was getting some speeding tickets running all over the United States. So Mr. Roy Sullivan blocked off the back end of the 13 speed. Took away our high hole. Well, me being mechanical and knowing a little bit, I stopped at the local truck dealership, bought a 13-speed knob, run the airlines through the floorboard, had it laying in the sleeper underneath the mat, and the mechanics never even figured it out. I'd go down the road, go all through the gears, and when I get in that last hole, then I'd split it, and I done had that pump turned out. If you remember on them old 3406s on the pump, they had them breakaway seals. You could break them. I welded a wrench. I drove that truck home, and I welded a little 3/8 wrench to them studs and backed them out. Tack it, break it, and then finally got them out. Went and bought some new seals, break-off seals, put them back on that pump after I turned it up. Then I put a bolt in the floor, so when I brought the truck in, you know, on my days off or whatever, I'd put that bolt in and it wouldn't dead rev too high where the mechanics wouldn't catch me. And then after that, after Sullivan's, I worked for Conoco Transportation for a little bit, and they got more rules than the United States Congress. But I lasted there till 1995. I got mad and said, I'm going to buy my own truck. I went and bought my own. Now remember, I started out in 1979 with a chauffeur's license. When I turned 18, I went and got a damn license. I actually didn't know it was illegal to drive across state lines, but I did it anyway. But in 95, I went in business for myself. I had some dump trucks, kept building my fleet, got to 17 trucks at one time. I was working myself to death, killing myself, actually, working on trucks at night, keeping them on jobs during the day, running equipment, you name it, I was doing it, and it was fixing to kill me. One day I got smart, went and sold every one of them trucks, excuse me, sold my contract that I had, and I went back to the oil field pulling a step deck and I had a step deck and a flatbed, and I was hauling oil field equipment. Ended up going all over the road, doing some trip leasing with Bennett Motor Express, leased onto them, hauled heavy equipment, oversized loads all over the United States for a while, probably a year or two. Got tired of that, went back to the oil field. Offshore was starting to go down again, so I went and leased on the Miller transporters out of Jackson, Mississippi. At the time, I had a red Pete with a Super 10 speed with a 3406 cat in it. After my taste of cats at Sullivan's, I never got over it, and I always tried to own cats. I've owned everything you can imagine, but I love Caterpillar. But anyway, Miller told me my truck was too long because it was a 300-inch wheelbase with a flat top sleeper. That baby would fly. So it was either cut my truck down or buy one. So I bought one from Miller. I paid it off in a year. I went and traded it in on a black Pete. Got my ass back in a Pete. Now that International I bought from Miller had had a cat in it, a 6NZ as a matter of fact, with some 411 rears and a 13 speed. It was a good truck, but it was an International, and I just didn't like it. I liked it, but I didn't like it. If I'd have known then what I know now, it'd have been a glider kit. But then I bought my first black truck, and then I sold it because Miller talked me into buying a brand new 389 Pete through them. I'd done paid off 2 trucks with them, and I drove that new truck about a month, and I said, piss on it. Had the comments, and I said, piss on this. I went and gave it back to him. Didn't hurt my credit or nothing, because come to find out it was a sneaky snake lease operation. But and then bought this black truck, which was a sister to my black truck, which a friend of mine owned. He was getting out of it. I bought his truck. I knew it backward and forward, so that's how we are where we're at today. Any questions, just ask me. I'll help you if I can. I've hauled everything. Cattle, grain. The only thing I've never done is haul a refrigerated trailer or a car trailer. I've done everything else. I've hauled cars on step decks that paid me $2 a mile per car and had 3 of them on there. But that's a different story for a different day. I'm loaded. I hope y'all enjoyed this little video. Please click like and subscribe. Thank you and have a good day.